Thank you, Reverend Loretta, and welcome everyone to the New York Community Center for Spiritual Living. Albert Einstein said, "Imagination is more powerful than knowledge. Knowledge is limited." Ernest Holmes says, "Ask for good and more good." And so, as a launching point for our spiritual mind treatment this morning, let's think about this. Let's use our knowledge and our imagination to ask for good and more good. As Reverend Loretta reminds us, I ask for and receive divine guidance. Let that be our launching point for our treatment today. So in recognition that there is one source, one power, one intelligence, one, the thing that it is, that is within imagination and beyond imagination, that is here in our presence and always around us, surrounding us. In fact, the essence of who we are is this thing that it is, including our knowledge and including our imagination. I make that real for myself by breathing in, taking in a breath and releasing it with the ah. Breathing in and releasing with ah. In imagination, I am knowing that there is this reality here, and then there is beyond this my belief, my faith that there is more good and more good. And we are never limited by the good that we can have and how it could be expressed in our lives. Beyond my imagination, what I know here and what I know is possible through faith, I ask for the whole complete perfection of health as it is expressed in my body through every corpuscle of my blood, through every inhalation of my breath, that I know that it is good and more good awaits me as I take in my breath, breathing in and releasing with awe. And this is an awe that is awe-inspiring, that I use my imagination with my knowledge to choose what is good for me and what is more good and what is more possible through my imagination. In this imagination, the right people to form relationships with, the right environment in which to live, the good that I accept and the good that I know is possible. Does this thought serve me today? Breathing in and releasing with awe. I know that I speak these words for myself, but my good is not limited to the words that I can speak. It is only limited by the imagination that I have. And I call upon this imagination that is awe-inspiring, that is whole, complete, and perfect. The good that I seek is also seeking me, because the good that I am is the essence of what I am. If this is true for me, it is true for you, and I speak these words with loving kindness to breathe in and awe. With awe, I accept the good of all that I seek and imagine. Thank you, Mother, Father, God, for this opportunity to be awe-inspired. Thank you, New York Community Center for Spiritual Living, for this chance to speak these words. And thank you, universe, for being the ever-giving, loving, awe-inspiring power that is accessible to me every day. I release my word knowing that it is done unto me. And so it is.
you? Oops, sorry about that. One day, as a mother was washing dishes, her teenage son walked into the kitchen and with great urgency asked her, "How can you believe in God?" He wasn't being sarcastic. He earnestly wanted to know. "When I was younger," he went on, "I used to find it easier. Now, I can see all the suffering and injustice in the world, and I find it hard to believe." The mother paused before speaking, resting her hands. "I don't just believe," she said. "I know. I know that love is real and that God is that love." She paused again before she could feel there was more. "It's a choice. It is a choice," she said. "I choose to believe because I see that what the world seems to be like when I don't believe. I am happier when I have faith. I am nicer to people. I'm more patient. So I choose to believe over and over and over again. Indeed, it is during our darkest hours that we can learn the most about our faith. When life's challenges are getting us down and we feel our pain, our depression, our childhood fears re-emerging. In truth, the more in touch we get with our true helplessness while we stay rooted in our divine security, the more space we create for our faith to grow. The more faith we feel, the more powerful we become.
Thank you, Catherine. That was really beautiful. Hope my glasses are okay. So, I would like to give you the announcements now. We're going to have our class today, the 5 Gifts of an Abundant Life, which should be wonderful. And we're having our Wednesday night, which should be also wonderful, with Barbara Blake. She's going to be teaching you about clarity of mind. There are flyers on the back table. You can take one if you'd like. This Wednesday evening at the Unitarian Universalist Center on West 76th Street from 6:30 until 8:30. So that should be wonderful also. And I believe that that will probably be the last Wednesday night. After that, we're going to take a break for the summer. So we will be having more workshops on Sunday afternoons and so on, but that will be the last one. And I just want to say what I always say: however you are feeling when you come in here, you will feel much better when you leave. I say that all the time as a reminder, because that's what we're here for, to be inspired and to be blessed. So let's take time today to wish each other a happy Sunday. Happy Sunday, everyone. Practitioner, and she is going to be speaking on what's faith got to do with it. Please help me welcome Dr.
Also known as faith has everything to do with it. There is so much that I can talk about with respect to faith, as I discovered as I was preparing for today's lesson, that would fill volumes and take hours. So hopefully I've shortened it down to a few salient points. I'd like to start with my favorite quote that I read from Claude Bristol in The Magic of Believing. He said, quote, "Faith does not ask for proof of its existence. Proof is not required for those who know that it exists. Faith does not rely on the reasoning mind, and it defies analysis." We are born with the faith of God. Faith is not something that we acquire, it is something that we have. And our mission, if we allow it to work in us, through us, and as us, that is our mission, to allow it to work. So I say that faith is the doorway to courage, awareness, and understanding. It fires up the imagination. God opened doors for us with faith. There is no limit to the ways in which Spirit can work in, through us, to achieve our desired goals. Because the desires that we claim as our own really originated in the mind of Spirit. For they are truly God's ideas working in us as our own thoughts, visions, dreams, and feeling. It is the power, the presence of God, that we are able to accomplish our wildest dreams, travel to far-off places even though we have no visible means of support. It is this power that can lift us up and plant our feet on fertile grounds. Spiritual faith enables us to achieve benefits that otherwise would be deemed improbable or impossible, or that seem to go beyond physical limits and abilities. The key for us is to believe and to follow our instincts, for Spirit will guide us. Thy will be done is the answer to the question, am I moving in the right direction? Am I on the right path? For that will of God always places us on the right path, in the right direction at all times. So my advice is that we should look to the source, God, for our guidance and our demonstration. Faith works, but it also works as we work. In other words, without active participation on our part, faith is ineffective. Faith will not, without action, will not produce benefits. Wishing will not make things happen, and you cannot be passive or indifferent. You have to take an active role. Being half-hearted about the things that you want to demonstrate, you cannot doubt or fear, because the moment you do, you block the action of Spirit with your thoughts of doubts and uncertainty. So I'd like to tell you about how faith worked for me in a very recent occurrence. On March 6th of this year, I received a summons to report to 100 Center Street for jury duty. I, at first, did not want to do it, and I think I expressed to my sister and some of my closest dear friends, including Reverend Loretta, that I didn't want to do it. But I showed up at the appointed time, and I was in a group that were selected to do a voir dire. And as I was sitting in the courtroom, I'm one mind, one voice inside of me is saying, you don't want to do this. You need to do and say whatever you need to do and say to get out of it. But the other voice within me was very calm, very peaceful, and directing me forward. So the voice that won out was the peace and the calm and the one that was directing me forward. So I ended up in a jury setting on a voir dire, saying what I thought would get me eliminated from being a juror. But the opposite occurred. I was selected. I was chosen. So the second day, March 7th, I went in and reported. Everything went fine. I stated my objection, but I was still selected. On the third day, sitting down, something occurred to me physically that I had not anticipated. The room was filled with dust, and I have what I used to call, I no longer do, allergies to dust and smells and odors and everything else, very sensitive. So I was in this place, in this space at this time, being selected. One voice still saying to me, you need to say that you're not feeling well to get out of it. The other voice, there was a deep sense of calm and peace and ease, and I was still following that voice of calm, peace, and ease. But at the same time, I was feeling physically unwell. To the extent that I'm thinking to myself, that voice was saying, you're not going to be able to make this. The other voice was saying to me, calm, peace, ease, and relaxation. So the feeling that I was experiencing is if I was heavily sedated, the kind of sedation that you experience before an operation, for example. So at one moment I was feeling perfectly well before going into the jury duty, and one next moment I was feeling as if I was going to pass out. So second day, third day, so we were told that the case was going to allow for 6 to 8 weeks. So the voice of panic inside of me is saying, 6 to 8 weeks? Are you going to be able to make this through for 6 to 8 weeks? The calm voice was saying, that's not that far away. So although I silently said to myself, through that voice, I can do it, I still had doubts and feeling. So I immediately began to do my treatment work. I called my sister, she did some treatment work. But as the day proceeded, whenever I entered the building, I had that overwhelming feeling of being heavily sedated. I didn't express it to anyone else, continued to do my treatment work, and continued to show up each day for jury duty. But one day, while on my way to the subway, I decided today's the day. Today's the day I'm going to say to the court officer, I can't come in, I'm feeling not well, I'm sick, all of this stuff. So I walk past the subway entrance, and I get to 86th Street in Columbus, Central Park West, and a woman came up to me and said, you're taking the subway. So she made the decision. And I said, yes, she said, you're taking the bus, the express bus. And I said, yes, I am. So I got on the express bus, and I ended up at 100 Center Street. And the minute I entered that room, I had that feeling of being heavily sedated. So I said, okay, I'll go through this, but I need a sign. So one afternoon, while listening to a witness for the prosecution, a detective, describe, and this was a drug case, describe how he had found drugs that were owned by the defendant and what he did with the drugs. He said that he took the drugs back to his police precinct and locked them in a desk drawer, but he had to do other duties, and so one of the police officers said, well, we need to take this evidence, alleged evidence, to the lab to find out exactly what it is. At that time, he said, well, where was the drugs? And he said, they were locked in my desk drawer with a key. But a voice inside of me said, it was a combination lock. So during the cross-examination, the attorney for the defendant said to the police officer, did you not say in the grand jury that it was a combination lock? At that point, I believed, and I had the faith, that the sign that I needed, what I needed to hear to verify that there was a power and a presence greater than anything that I was feeling, experiencing, or going through, working in me, through me, in my body, to make right, to neutralize and dissolve whatever there was in my consciousness, my thoughts, my thinking, my feeling, my body, and my emotion, to make things right. So when I heard the police officer verify what I had heard in my head, I knew that I no longer had to be fearful. I no longer had to think of an excuse. I no longer had to do whatever it would take for me to excuse myself from jury duty, because I realized that I had made a commitment and that the Spirit of God working through me would never put me in a position or a place that would be detrimental in any way to anything that I am. So I didn't have to claim anything except to go and work with Spirit. So nothing changed. The atmosphere was still the same. The room was still dusty and dirty and hot, but something within me changed. The symptoms I can't even describe to you because that's how changed things happen. At the time, had it been earlier in March, I would have been able to give you a litany of what it felt like. But however, standing here now, I can't even describe what it felt like, but it was because it's so foreign to who I am and what I am. But I know that it happened. And I know that for the rest of the trial, which was 6 to 8 weeks in length, I was able to show up every day, breathe the dusty air, endure the heat, perfectly calm, perfectly healthy, perfectly happy. So that's how Spirit works. It gives you the courage. So when I say that Spirit gives you the courage, the understanding, and the awareness, it does. And we let it happen. But there was something else happening at that time. I had a prayer partner, Gary McMillan. And Gary and I, every morning between 7 and 7:30, no matter what we were feeling and what was going on in our lives, would text each other 5 things that we were grateful for. So I have to think that it was my attitude of gratitude. It was the treatment work that was being done for me by my sister and Reverend Loretta, and my own treatment work. And realizing and recognizing that there's a power greater than I am in the universe and that I can use it. That was the catalyst to get things started, to prepare me and to open me for the demonstration that I experienced. So, what am I saying? If you have any issues, concerns, and you're treating for anything, health, money, loving relationships, or for example, let's say a job that you want to manifest and have not demonstrated, I'd suggest that you stop treating for those things and focus and treat on guidance, gratitude and acceptance, and above all, peace of mind. Because it's that peaceful mind, it is that mind that is calm, it is that mind that is at ease in which Spirit does its perfect work. It is that restless mind that is flitting here and there, that mind that is filled with doubt and uncertainty, that Spirit cannot work. But for me, looking back, I recognize now that there were signs and symbols all around me. For instance, there was one of the jurors who would say to me each day at the end of the 5 o'clock session, take the subway that I'm taking. Come on the train with me. So what was he saying to me? You will get to where you're going because I am here and you are safe. So I recognize that even through the judge who allowed me in one day to show up late, that Spirit was working through people. Now, whether these people were aware that they were conduits, that Spirit was using them, I don't know. But I can tell you, when I look back, I see that Spirit was working through them. That Spirit works through people to help us and to assist us to get to where we want to be and to do what we want. So, if you're treating, for example, for an increase of your current income, get the law of mind working for you by initiating some action. My action in that particular case was going each day. Although I was uncertain, although doubt was there, it wasn't the dominant thought. It wasn't the dominant pattern. It wasn't the dominant idea. My very action, getting up, writing my gratitude text messages, doing what I had to do to get on the subway, feeling comfortable, was action, was activity. And we say to each other, and we from biblical, that if you have faith, even the size of a mustard seed, that mustard seed of faith is enough for Spirit to do a grand and great work. So I'm not telling you that if you have all doubt, if you're experiencing that it can't work. It can. It will. Because you have the faith that makes it happen. It is by your faith, it is by your belief that makes it happen. So surrender. is what I say. When you've taken all the steps, done everything that you can humanly possibly do, turn it over to the greater power. Let go and let God do the rest. If you're treating for love and supportive relationships, if you're treating for income, the way to do it is to give. Ask Spirit, what can I give? How can I give? Ask and you will demonstrate, but you must be an active participant. If you don't currently have a prayer partner for yourself, that you can look around here at our center. There are plenty of people I'm sure will be willing to be a prayer partner. And if not, then what you can do is you can send your own text message, your gratitude text message to yourself via your email. Send yourself an email of all of the things, list the things that you're grateful for, even in the midst of what you might call trials and tribulations, because in spirit, they don't exist. I can tell you that. Your treatments have the power to fuel your faith and to get you where you need to be to receive divine guidance. The power to lift up your consciousness to a place where every need you have will be completely met. Every bill will be paid on time. Every debt removed, and every sickness and disease healed, if you allow it. But you must allow Spirit to work. For God is your source for everything that you could ever need. You know, Ernest Holmes said that a treatment rests in the faith, that a treatment that rests in faith will always be effective. So no matter how your faith, and I'm not suggesting that you should measure it, you don't have to. It just has to be there. You know, there's a Negro spiritual that says, his eye is on the sparrow, and I know he watches me. Meaning that you might think my little desire or my small, I don't have a huge catastrophic thing that I am treating for. Spirit doesn't measure, doesn't know big or small. If you look back and say my experience at court was maybe a small occurrence, allergies, whatever it would be, but I knew at the time that there was something, a great power, an almighty power working in me that would see me through this, that would see me through 6 to 8 weeks of going into this dusty place, that would see me safely through it, better, and I came out better than going in. And on the last day after deliberation, I said I did it. But it was really Spirit doing it, taking the credit. But Spirit allows me to take the credit. So, it's thy will be done. But we should know that divine will is nothing less than freedom from limitation, freedom from lack, freedom from dis-ease, freedom from disorder. That they will all melt away into nothingness. Not only do they melt away, but also the memory of what occurred, the unpleasantness, is a beneficiary thing. It also melts away. And once you demonstrate through your faith the power, the healing presence of God, the beautiful thing is you never go back to where you were before. It's not a backward power. It's not a backward presence. It's an ongoing, forward-moving, forward-marching power and presence for good. And once you feel it, once you are touched by it, you are forever changed by it. So, trust is the key. Trust God. Trust the source, the perfect, on-time, in-place source for everything you could possibly need, desire, or want. Place your faith where it will not be disappointed. To paraphrase a statement from Joel Osteen, you have but to speak your word, a word that recognizes and acknowledges God as the one and only source for your faith. Then by your word, God will renew your mind, heal every situation, circumstance, and event in your life, place you in a higher place in consciousness, open the gates of abundance for you to receive, and once you do, you are forever blessed. Thank you all very much.
What an incredible lesson that was for each and every one of us. Thank you, Barbara. That was really wonderful. Very positive. Thank you very much. Fabulous. So I gleaned two things from that. The first one is I ask for and receive divine guidance and I act on it. Yeah. That's really the key also. It's not only asking for and receiving, but it's acting on it. And the other piece that I got from that was peace, be still, and know. And now we're going to have our offering affirmation, and then we're going to have some.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So I had a concert in Baltimore last night, and I took the overnight bus, and I got here like 5 o'clock, so a couple hours, so I'm completely out of my mind. So, so two tunes. So I didn't even think about second selection. So okay, I'll just do something related to the first one. I was gonna play something from Richard Rogers, Oscar Hammerstein songbook, The Sound of Music from Sound of Music. The first one is Edelweiss, the flower, you know. And the second one, I guess, from same, you know, musical. I guess I just play my favorite things. Hope you enjoy.
The magic of Yoichi, right? That was wonderful. Thank you, Yoichi. At this time, we have